You know, I know people think because we're from the South and grew up in the country that we eat everything, you know, high carb, fried, smothered in gravy. But reality is we don't. We have to watch what we eat. So, in moderation, we do have fried potatoes. In moderation, we do have homemade biscuits and pies and cakes. But it's the in between that, so that we can eat these things, that we try to be careful. So I do incorporate not no carb, but low carb suppers, you know, every few days during the week, just to keep us leveled out a little bit. And it does seem to help. We do love our fried pies, and we do love our biscuits and gravy. But just like I said, in moderation, we can still have it. I want to share a recipe that I'm fixing to do, and I hadn't even planned on even turning the camera on. But I thought, I'm just going to turn the camera on and show them what I'm making for our supper, because it's low carb, it's delicious, and it's a lot healthier for you. So if you're interested, stay with me, and let's make I'm using my Instant Pot. You can do this in a slow cooker, or you can even do it in your oven. But it's just your typical pot roast. Chuck roast is what I use, and we know how high beef is right now. There's no doubt. You could cut this roast in two if you're just cooking for two and you're not really worried about leftovers. Cut the roast in two and make 2 meals out of it, or cook the whole thing and eat leftovers out of it. You can do so many things with a cooked roast. And but I want to show you what I substitute to keep some of the carbs out of this meal. We won't be eating bread. Oh, how I would love to sop up that juice that from that pot roast. I'd love to sop it up with a good biscuit or a piece of homemade bread or a homemade roll. And we do that, but we do it in moderation. So with this meal, there's no bread and no potatoes. But I want to show you what I substitute for my potatoes. And some of y'all already do this. And Danny absolutely loves it. He loves it when I do this, and he's very satisfied with it. So if I can do this, and he's satisfied with it, not having a potato, I think I've done good then. So hang around. Let's make a good old roast and some good old veggies with it. Whenever I'm cooking any kind of roast, I like to brown both sides of it. Whether if I'm doing an Instant Pot, or if I'm doing it in a slow cooker, or if I'm doing the oven, I like to brown both sides. So we're going to be browning this, and I've got my Instant Pot on saute, and I put a little bit of olive oil on the bottom. We're just going to brown it on both sides. Now I also like to season my meat really good. I'm not going to be using a lot of fancy different seasonings. Just a little bit of black pepper, things that you'd already have in your pantry, some salt, and I like to use a little bit of garden thyme on my roast. I think it gives it a really good taste. So we're going to let this just brown up on that side, and then when I flip it over, we're going to put seasoning on this side. So we're going to put a little bit more salt and some more black pepper and some more thyme on this side. It's about that easy. So now we're fixing to put our veggies and our broth in here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to add just a little bit more seasoning to it, because I'm going to add, I've got a good tablespoon of minced garlic over here that we're going to put on top of our meat. First, I think I'm going to go ahead and deglaze the bottom of my Instant Pot. So I'll put just a little bit of my vegetable broth in there. Now I'm going to be using vegetable broth instead of beef broth with this roast and veggies. But you can use beef broth, whichever you have on hand or whichever you want to use. You can even just put water in here if you don't have any broth. Maybe you've got some bouillon cubes or anything like that. But I'm choosing vegetable broth today. But I do want to put, now you can use, I'm going to be using about half of this. And this is a full, big, heaping tablespoon of minced garlic. If you don't have any fresh garlic, just use you some garlic powder and just sprinkle you some on top of your roast. I'm going to save the other half for my veggies that I'm going to be putting in here. But if you want to add some different kind of seasonings, please do. Make it your own. I'm going to be putting about 3 peppercinis in here because Danny loves that taste on a roast, kind of like the Mississippi pot roast recipe. And he loves the taste that it gives the veggies and the broth in here. Usually about 3 or 4 is plenty. Now this roast will make us several meals. About two good meals. And I've got 2 medium onions. Putting a lot of onions in this is what's going to make it taste so good. So I'm going to cover this roast with some onion. And this is just what they call sweet onion. I don't think it's even a Valdelia. It's just some kind of a sweet onion. Just cover that up like that. And when this onion cooks down, it's going to give that broth a really good taste too. So, we're going to be using carrots. Now, they are not a no-carb keto, but they are a low-carb vegetable. And I also want to show you, this is what I'm putting in place of potatoes, is radishes. Now, you might think I'm crazy, y'all, but y'all have seen me do this in the past. Danny loves when I cook radishes like this in place of potatoes to do a lower carb dish. I have taken radishes and I have roasted them. I have also cut them up and fried them like fried potatoes, and he loves it. So your carrots, they are a lower carb than a potato. They are a root vegetable. They're not a tuber, so they're lower in carbohydrates than a potato is. But we love our carrots and we love our vegetables, so we're going to do carrots with our radishes. Now, if you don't like fresh radishes, like me, I don't like them fresh, but I do love them cooked this way. You will be so surprised at how good they taste. They just take on a whole different spectrum when you cook them like this, or you roast them in the oven, or fry them up, or whatever. You just be really surprised how good they are, and Danny loves them. So it's a good way to do a low-carb supper for both of us during the week. So I'm going to add my vegetable broth, and I think I'm going to need some more because I like to have a lot of broth in here with my meat and my vegetables. Everything just cooks up a lot better to me. And plus we like that broth, or we like to thicken that up to make gravy with it. So I'm going to get some more of the vegetable broth. A lot of times I do use beef broth. It seems to give Danny a little bit of indigestion. So I switched over to vegetable broth a while back, and he seems to be doing a lot better. And I'm just using, this is reduced sodium vegetable broth, organic vegetable broth from Walmart that I keep in my pantry at all times. And of course a whole stick of butter. Paula Dean would be proud of me. But it's what gives them veggies and that meat a really good taste. And this is nothing but pure heavy cream butter. Okay, we're going to put the lid on and get this Instapot ready. We're going to make sure it's on seal. Now, a lot of times it depends on how big my roast is. I will cook this for 60 minutes, a whole hour. But, you know, this roast isn't really that big, and there's no potatoes in there, so I'm going to cut it back about 5 minutes. So we're going to go 55 minutes, let it do its thing, and then it'll start cooking. And in 55 minutes, we're going to have a beautiful roast and veggie supper. So be careful when you take the lid off when it's ready. I let it sit for about 10 minutes even after it was done. Always open that lid away from you. I want you to look how tender everything is, and it smells so good. Look how tender that radish is. The carrots are tender, and the meat always is just falling apart. That's why I love my Instant Pot, because in less than an hour I can have this beautiful meal on the table. Now, we like to thicken up our gravy just a little bit. And to keep it low carb, I'm not using flour. I'm not using cornstarch. There's different ways that you can thicken your gravy. I don't like any xanthan gum. I don't like anything like that on, you know, as far as keto. I just don't like that stuff. So what I'm using is just some heavy cream. And I've got my Instant Pot on saute, so that's why it's boiling like that. And I'll just let this just thicken up a little bit with that heavy cream. Now you can also, if you don't mind it changing the taste a little bit, put you a little bit of cream cheese in there. That'll thicken it up, and it'll keep it keto and low carb. So here's our beautiful roast and veggies, low carb, with a salad on the side.
This is really good. Low carb. It amazes me. I've eaten these because I've been on a low carb diet before. But the radishes, it amazes me how different they taste, how good they taste, but they resemble a potato so much. Not going to be, you know, as what I'd say, as filling as a potato, as far as making you feel overfull. These carrots turned out really good.
Yeah, carrots aren't, and I explained to them, they're not a no carb either. They're just a lower carb than a potato, because a root vegetable that's not, you know, not a tuber will have less carbohydrates in it. But, you know, you just got to do it in moderation. You got to have your vegetables, and that's all there is to it. And that's just the way I feel about it. And so...
You know, when I was on my low carb, I lost, I don't know, 20, 25 pounds. But I never counted my fruit as a carb. If I decided I wanted, you know, an apple, or, as a matter of fact, I'd take apples, remember, and cut them, and at work, slice them up, put a little cinnamon on them, no sugar, just good apple. But, and then on weekends, when you cook kind of a normal type meal, we would, so I wasn't just full carb, but I lost weight, so.
Yeah, and we're not full carb now, but we just in moderation, and we don't have to have real starchy meals, you know. So that does help.
Especially during 100-degree weather.
Yeah. Hopefully that's fixing to change. But anyways, enjoy your supper.
It's really good.